people and you're finding out where there are mutual interests. You know, collecting would often be would be a part of the conversation. Almost anyone that's into comic books, there's a good chance they're into at least 50% of the things that I'm into. You know, whether it's movies, whether it's the kind of books that I read. When you aren't reluctant to bring out the fanboy or the geek in yourself, when you aren't reluctant to put that on display, somebody that you're just meeting tends to feel a little safer and say, well, hey, you know what, I'm into such and such. Can I tell you this without being laughed at? I think maybe I can, you know, and then you find some common ground. I came to Los Angeles to program a radio station. I was in radio for 12 years, and I launched a radio station called The Beat. I was there a couple of years, went and worked for Quincy Jones, did A&R for his record company, Quest Records. And I left there in '98 and joined Sony's Home Entertainment Division. I built and ran a department that created all the special features for Sony DVDs, commentaries, documentary deleted scenes for everything from Spider-Man to Men in Black, Lawrence of Arabia, and on and on and on. I left Sony in February of 2010, and last year I reunited with several Sony colleagues and we started a new company, production and distribution company called Big Air Studios. We're in Santa Monica. We look for films to acquire, films to produce, and do distribution, digital distribution. In the meantime, I have maintained my interest in all things pop culture. And I have a blog, tallguysgearguide.com, which is essentially, it started out as a reference guide for guys over 6 feet, because I'm 6'5", but it wound up just being a vehicle of self-expression about anything I'm interested in. So it's kind of all over the place, but I'm kind of all over the place, you know, so I think it's a pretty good mirror. My collection breaks out into a few areas. There's movie memorabilia, there are original comic book art, and I guess comic books themselves. But the bulk of my collection has wound up being, over the last few years, sideshow stuff and hot toy stuff. Anything that I collect, it's not with an intention of what's the resale value going to be down the road. It's, I really like this. This is fun. This evokes a memory. This will look good in my place. I only buy art that really speaks to me. Out of all of the pieces of collectibles that I have in my possession, my favorite piece is a piece that I found wandering around in Tokyo. I went in a toy shop and I was just looking around for nothing in particular, and I ran across this beautiful 6th scale figure of 8th Man, which was an old 1960s Japanese animation series. And I'm sure it was the first anime I ever saw in my life. I walked in the store and boom, there it is. And it was just incredibly well done. And I bought it, and I found out later they only made 100. And every once in a while, you know, you'll see someone that's got it for sale, and it goes for a lot of money. And I would never ever even think about parting with it, but that is my most prized collectible. That's from an action figure perspective, I guess. While I realize there's a debate on what's art and what's not when it comes to pop culture, in my mind, anything that relies on the creative expression of an artist to create something is art. I don't really buy into the idea that because there's a dollar tag placed on it that it's not art, or because it's based on something that was created to generate income, it's not art. You know, I just don't buy that at all. I think pop culture is clearly our modern mythology. Spider-Man, Darth Vader, I mean, all those things are built on the history of mythology. They're built on the shoulders of Joseph Campbell's hero of 1,000 Faces. So much of, I think, what draws us are the trials and the challenges that, you know, how is Luke Skywalker going to ultimately become this Jedi Knight, you know? How does his father gain redemption? You look at Batman, here's someone who lost what's most important to him. You know, how does he find within himself to become a better version of himself, even though he's got a fatal flaw. Almost all of these stories can be tracked back to some key mythologies, and I don't see it ever stopping. And it's so much a part of who we are as human beings that's why I think that's why the stories resonate around the world the way that they do.